Every mine has a story, and so does every community. Here at MPRDA Conversations, we bring you voices from the ground, insights from experts, and conversations that matter to mining host communities. Mining laws made simple, communities made stronger. This is MPRDA Conversations.
I am Filia Mwaje. I am the head of the paralegal unit at the MACUA WAMUA Advice Office, and I'm here with.
Greetings. My name is Samuel Nguni, MACUA WAMUA National Coordinator. Mute movement here. Thank you.
Halala, halala, halala. So today we're here to talk about the MPRDA, which is the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act. In fact, there's a bill which is out for comment right now, and essentially the MPRDA is it's an act. It's a piece of legislation which speaks to mining and related activities which surround, mining. So, do you want to help me out here?
So what happens is, as we know, Africa it's a continent that is rich in terms of minerals. So each and every country, they've got the legislation or regulations that they use to regulate how mining needs to take place, ownership of the mines, ownership of the minerals. So in South Africa, we have, as Comrade Fila said, we've got MPRDA, which regulates mining activities in the country. So what it also does, it gives effect to say the state is the custodian of the minerals in terms of who owns the minerals in the country. So according to MPRDA, the state is the custodian of those minerals. So anyone who wants to mine or work with the minerals, they go through the Department of Minerals and Petroleum Resources to obtain a permit, a license, basically to obtain authorization to work the minerals. But then the minerals remains the property of the state. But once you obtain the license, anything that you mine belongs to you as a license holder. Then they pay taxes and rates and whatnot to the state via income tax, corporate tax, all those things. But on a nutshell, it's a legislation that regulates how mining is to happen.
Exactly.
In the country, generally. Exactly. Yes.
No, and our view as MACUA is that communities are wildly excluded from this process of mineral extraction, right? We're of the view that we don't actually benefit from mining and extraction as it happens in our country. We see it as a very violent process that happens. We see it as an extractive process that has nothing to do. We actually view it as people, profits over people, right?
Definitely.
So, Subs, with this new bill and the proposed amendments to the MPRDA, what are your views? Because I think what I've seen coming out of it is that even in the definitions and the proposed amendments to the definitions of community and other places of, for example, they have suggested that the definition of historically disadvantaged persons be removed completely from the bill. And in my view, for example, I see that as a complete injustice simply because that destroys the whole framework of what the MPRDA stands for, because mineral extraction has been known to be a platform whereby historical injustices where mining was meant to be for the historically mining has been for the wealthy. People were benefiting from mining way before I was born. And it was always white people, and I don't want to racialize it, but it was white people benefiting from mining and extractive activities. And so when the MPRDA came into effect in 2002, it was said that, historically disadvantaged people should benefit from the proceeds that are coming from mining. And so with this new bill, when they're taking away the definition of historically disadvantaged persons, I feel like that is a step back in many respects, because it's saying to us that, hey, let's forget about the historically disadvantaged people who have, a legacy of kind of, now let's start benefiting from the mining processes, and let's focus on mass profits instead in a different kind of way.
Yeah, definitely.
So when we think of these definitions and the framework and how it was meant to, or supposedly meant to, benefit a wider majority of people, what are your views on this?
Yeah, thanks, Fulia. It is a problem to start with, because when we talk about historically disadvantaged, we are historically disadvantaged as a country, more so even as a continent. Because now when we go back, let's say 150 years ago, and during the 1880s, towards late 18th century, mining started to be more active in South Africa. The discovery of the diamonds, the discovery of gold. Yes, copper was there. Copper was one of the minerals that was mined earlier, including coal. So during that time, they established what they call migrant labor system to regulate workers that are working in the mines. So with that system, it also introduced migrant workers if we use the current language, from foreign countries. It allowed, or it created a system where those from foreign countries, Lesotho, Mozambique, or Zimbabwe, or Malawi, they were taken from their countries to come and work in the mines in South Africa. While they're still working during that period, came 1913, where they established the Land Act. Now, what it depends. Remember, you are taken away from your land via migrant labor system. Then there comes Land Act 13 is taking away the land that you are working. During the late 1880s, working in the mines was not permanent, but you would work 3 months, 6 months, and go back to work the land. Then those who were controlling the mines, the state and mining companies, they saw that they are losing profit and they are not maximizing profit. And then when it comes to labor, that labor will sometimes come, sometimes will not come. Then they established that migrant labor system to ensure that no one leaves. It also introduced what they called back then the pass laws, where when you live in Everton, you can't be found in Springs, you can't be found in Velcom, you can't be found in Kimberley. So when we say you are historically disadvantaged, we talk about those things. That the development of mining, the development of legislation around mining, the development of economy around mining, it placed black people, if I can use race in this regard, on a disadvantage level, where we are only regarded as workers. And even as workers, not every work that we were given to us. It came a period where there was an influx of European mine workers, which were white. They came and they were given skilled labor, and we were given unskilled labor, so we couldn't operate any machines and stuff. It was systemic. So they created a system that disadvantages us. Fast forward to 1994, there was we moved into a democratic state. So the democratic state, during that first year, the first years, they established a redevelopment program, RDP. Then the business complained about RDP. Then they did away with RDP. remember, during that period, we were still historically disadvantaged because there were Bantu stands that were established during in the process, where we were taken in other areas. We didn't live around the economic areas. We were put in hostels and stuff. Systemically, again, came 2002. Then the state said, no, we are taking the minerals under our custodianship. We are establishing a legislation, a system that will ensure that we distribute the wealth, to distribute the benefits of extractive industrial mining to everyone who lives in South Africa. Remember, in 1994, Mandela said South Africa belongs to those who live in it. So the MPRDA, when it came in, the preamble was meant to benefit us, to say those who are historically disadvantaged persons, they need to benefit, given first preference, ensure that we benefit from the minerals of the country. From 2002 till 2025, there's no realization of the preamble. So the preamble was strong before the current amendment bill. So when you look at the current amendment bill, what it does, it removes that historical disadvantage of it's a problem, because there are reasons why we are saying we are historically disadvantaged. So removing it means now we are no longer historically disadvantaged, of which is incorrect.
It's like a whitewashing.
Yeah, it's a whitewash. So they are painting a picture as if South Africa is an equal country. And the ways we know, in terms of the inequality in the whole world, we are number one. We are disadvantaged. The poverty level goes up. So in a situation or in a state where we are sitting with over 60% of unemployment, which we are unemployed because of we are historically disadvantaged. That's why we are unemployed. That's why we live in squatter camp. That's why we live in a highly concentrated areas because of Bantu states. Now the government comes and say, no, that's normal. You are not in poverty, guys. You are fine. We and white people, they were now at the same level. Because when you go through, even when they but we'll talk about it when we keep going. When you look at the definition of community, how communities are, or how communities are structurally constructed. Bantu stands, we live in Bantu stands, which were a community, and the Bantu stands were systemically created. You understand? So, not addressing the historical or the legacy disadvantages that we had and that we are having as mining affected communities or as a country, and then come with a system that says, no, those historically disadvantaged issues, they are no longer there. We are a democratic country, everyone is fine. It's incorrect and it's unconstitutional as far as the realities that we live in are. To remove historical disadvantaged persons they are reversing and they are disregarding the pains and the struggles that we are even today we are still facing as communities. So it is a problem.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think you raised an important point when you said even when we go to the definition of communities, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the proposed amendment bill refers to communities, and in the definition it proposes refers to communities as social cohesion in a municipal district or what is it again?
You say we are
in a district, social group,
residing
in a district municipality or a metropolitan municipality,
yes.
according to the Municipal Structures Act, what. And I mean, that's so exclusionary, it really cuts out a lot of different communities or groupings of people. Imagine you are a community like Blayford, which is a mining community itself, but you are unproclaimed because now the mine, you were a mining town yourself, the mine now got liquidated, for example, as was the situation in Blyfor itself, and then you are not being claimed by any municipality, and you are essentially effectively landless. You are left in the dust, but you don't belong to a municipality because the municipality doesn't apparently have funds for you. But in the same breath, they want to organize communities or define communities in those strict terms instead of grouping communities as historically disadvantaged groups of people who have a common heritage or something like that. Like, it's so exclusionary. It even neglects maybe rural groupings of communities and informal kind of spaces that might also be framed as communities, you know. That kind of definition does not really
include anyone.
Yeah, man, it doesn't have that thing, inclusion. So I think that the definitions part of the amendment bill really does need a lot of work. It doesn't have enough texture to it, and it ignores that history and the realities that you were talking about when you were giving context to historically disadvantaged persons, and why it's actually wrong for the department to frame the way that they framed historically disadvantaged persons and the removal of it from the amendment bill itself.
Serious.
Yeah,
it is an issue. It is an issue. I think if we can go deeper on the definition, on the example of platform, where you will find a community was once a community, then all of a sudden it's no longer a community as per the Municipal Structures Act. No one is claiming the area. No one is saying it doesn't belong to municipality, doesn't belong to customary land, or doesn't belong to anyone. So they are just floating around. And during that same period, there's mining that is taking place where they live. They are impacted and affected by that same mining. Then it brings a question to say, if then such areas are not protected by law. Remember, MPRDA is a law. It's a legal instrument. If there's we've got a legal instrument in a country that pick and choose whom to recognize, whom should not recognize, then we are sitting with a law that seeks to continue. If we can use a simple language, you can say it's apartheid. It perpetuates the principles of what apartheid government introduced, the Bantu segregations and stuff. It's the same as past law, that you can't be in this area, you can be in that area. When you look at mining in South Africa, majority of mining activities, they are taking place in rural areas. So some of the many of the rural areas, they are under a district municipality.
Yeah.
And then we know in terms of budgeting in South Africa, districts, they receive less budget vis-a-vis the metros. And when you look at the metros are highly populated because the districts are not developed, are poor. So now we've got a law that says we are only considering those who live within these areas. There are some rural areas that are not in Xhosa. In Xhosa they say when something is not sure, it's that are not recognized by the municipality.
Yeah.
So if they are not recognized, then the law is not itself. So then it means then we have a law that, as I said earlier on, the Constitution says South Africa belongs to those who live in it. And we know that we are historically disadvantaged, majority of us. When you look at many of labor-sending areas, let's use the Eastern Cape for example, for mining. Let's use Lesotho for mining. Let's use Limpopo and other provinces. But let's focus on Eastern Cape.
My leader, can I pause you there?
Sure.
It's Limpopo.
Oh, Limpopo.
Yeah.
Not Limpopo. No, Limpopo. When you look at areas, they were sending areas in Eastern Cape, those are rural areas. They are not developed. So if a community is defined using a system that doesn't recognize other informal areas, it disregards IPIRLA, it disregards the preamble of the constitution that South Africa belongs to everyone. It disregards the principles that everyone is equal in terms of the face of the law. What does the statement normally says? With everyone is equal
Before the law.
before the law. So now there's an introduction of a legislation of a law that is carrying elements of inequality on their own. So when you look at the proposed bill vis-a-vis the constitution, they are not speaking to each other. There's no ngam that is happening in between. So it is a problem,
And
especially the definition around communities. This is the problem.
do you think this might be on purpose? I mean, in my mind, I don't think, look, there's one half a mind to say it's not on purpose, to say that the department is not purposefully making this disjuncture between the MPRDA and the Constitution on purpose because they want to delay changing the MPRDA because it suits business just fine, right? But on the other side of my mind, I'm like, nobody because the interests of business are aligned to the MPRDA as it stands. It is exclusionary to communities as it stands, and the amendment bill is even more exclusionary to communities, right? And it seems as though the submissions that were made prior to the amendment bill actually being put out by MACUA and other civil society organizations weren't really given as much weight as they should have been, because it doesn't seem free, prior and informed consent measures were actually considered in the drawing up of this bill. Like, for me, it seems very...
Yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue. It's a professional or legalized operation Balamkoti.
Yeah.
In simple. Because now, you in the proposed amendments that were made by civil society in MACUA and communities in general, it seems as if they look at everything that we proposed and then they went on the opposite direction. Because everything that we are proposing is putting people before the profit. When you look at what Mineral Council are saying about this current proposal, they are very happy because it speaks to them. So I would say it's done purposely. So it's intentional, because for the past 20 years, as mining affected communities, we've been raising our voice to say mining is infringing on our basic human rights. They are not developing, they are taking away. There's environmental degradation that is happening because of mining. You listen to the current president, he speaks about just energy transition. When you listen to the minister of the MPR, that one is always clear. Comrade Tiger, clear to say we are not going to do away with coal. We are going to open more coal mines. So, in doing so, they saw, even Mineral Council, they kept complaining about the process of obtaining mining licenses, of obtaining permits, the process of consultation. It's tedious. It makes things drag.
More difficult.
It's more difficult. When you look at what that consultation that is making things more difficult, it's about putting community rights in the forefront. Business says, no, we can't. That thing plays us. These people are fine. There was no logic to remove historical disadvantage there's no logic around it. But the logic is to protect business, because now everything that we were doing to fight against mining or to advocate against mining as communities, we were using the Principal Act of 2022 of 2002. We were using many
with the 2020 regulations.
Yeah, exactly. So we're using those regulations to protect ourselves. What they are doing now, they are taking away those protection using the same law. They are changing things that communities were using to protect themselves, and they are solely focusing on them. So this is intentional. The aim is to ensure that we are not close. We should not have any legal right to advocate against mining. We don't have any legal right to advocate against any human rights abuse that comes with business. So it is tensional, and the reason I would say again is tensional. When you look at the proceedings since the bill was published, there's been many activities that are done by the department and funded by the Mineral Council. So if there's a law that is created to seek to protect human rights and businesses in the forefront, it's a problem. So what we see now, the law is meant to protect business more than people, and Mineral Council is in the forefront. When the bill was published, Mineral Council issued a statement. They say they are not help. Then all of a sudden you see them, they are help. They are in the forefront. They are funding activities of the department. So if someone that needs to be regulated by the state, I fund the state itself, there's no way that I'll be regulated, there's no way that I will be held accountable, because now I've captured them. So the Mineral Council and other mining companies that are not within the Mineral Council are performing what they framed as state capture by the Kutas. But the state capture is happening in front of us via Mineral Council and the MPRDA. And now we are putting in professional or legalized operation Valamkoti, where we are excluded by law as communities. So it's an issue. Yeah, it's painful.
I absolutely agree with what you say, and I would like to ask you a question later about some of that. But right now, what struck me is that you are alluding to some kind of symbiotic relationship between business and the state, and this is bringing me to some of the proposals in the amendment bill. For example, the ministerial council, as well as the formation or the composition rather of REMDEC, where we don't see much participation or inclusion of communities in those formations. So in the ministerial council, we see how there'll be, bodies of people who'll be there, to different kind of, actors who'll be there to advise the minister on certain
on the decisions of the department itself.
Exactly, certain decisions and stuff. But it's quite evident that community representation is lacking, more especially where communities make up a broad sector of communities are at large the widest majority. But they are given maybe 2 seats or so in REMDEC, if I'm not mistaken, but not on the ministerial council. And what are your thoughts around that? Because I think that is very problematic.
Yeah, it is
problematic, and to say the least. Simply because communities, if anything, should have a say on the ministerial council, number one, because how will the minister know what to say about communities or be advised on how communities should be governed if there are no voices from communities?
Especially those who are affected, yes.
Precisely.
Yeah, it is an issue, it is a problem. there's contradictions that are happening. So, in the establishment of MACUA, we were engaging the department as community-based organizations, as individuals. And then the state, through the department, said, mining affected communities are defragmented. We are all over the place. We come here, one group says we are representing the community, there's another group that is representing the community. Then we formed Mining Affected Communities United in Action, MACUA, to ensure that we close that loophole from the state, because they were using it as a scapegoat for refusing to engage mining affected communities. So, fast forward 2025, the same state now is saying in the REMTEC composition will allow 3 community representatives to be part of that panel. So, REMTEC, what's the definition of REMTEC?
It's the Regional Mining Development,
Environmental Development, but their role is to review objections around any application. It might be prospecting and whatnot. So, within that space, the government is saying there will be 3 community representatives. There's 3 labor representatives. I think there's 2 industry representatives of as Mineral Council. Then, in that space, this is only where we are going to engage. Let's focus on that 3. If the state says we are defragmented, and then allow a minimum of 3 representatives of a community. If we can use the example of Mokhalakwe, Mkopane, Mapila, what do we call it? It's Mapila, yeah. In Mapila. Mapila is all over 20 villages.
Yeah.
Over 20 villages with 20 traditional representatives. You understand? So, in an area where the community is more dominant, obviously, everywhere the community is more dominant than business. How will we find or a criteria of selecting those 3? It will be left to the communities. When we try to engage any mining company, they say no, we engage via the municipality, because the municipality are the elected, the councillors are the elected representative of the community. So if business regard councillors as community representative, so there is a possibility they might interpret that as the same thing. Interpret the composition of REMDEC with what mining companies are normally doing, to say, well, we prefer the council. So they will say, okay, in that. So you see, what is the domino effect? Listen to the community definitions. It talks about metros and districts. Yes. When we engage mining companies, they are telling us about councillors as community representative. So, and the definition of the community is influenced or is leaning towards municipal system structural act.
Yes.
So, under the municipality, we've got wards, which councillors are the representatives of the community. So, technically, we are not represented anywhere. We are not represented anywhere in terms of REMDEC. We as ordinary people won't be part of that panel, because how they define a community representative is through the wards, because they're using municipal structural act to define a community in terms of MPRDA. So it's a closed business. It will be political parties via councillor as a community representative, then it will be labor, and we know in the some mining companies have a tendency of choosing what labor movement or labor representative they want. Some will say, no, we don't want AMCO, we want NUM. And workers are saying, no, we don't want NUM, we want AMCO. We can use an example of Goldwan in Springs. If the community can remember that, I think in 2023 or last year, 2024, we saw mine workers refusing to emerge from underground, saying we are rejecting NUM, we want NAM, we want AMCO. So, yeah, but I know. No. The more you think about it, the more you analyze it, you get to see, no, man. This is apartheid 2.0. Honestly, because now then, in the ministerial advisory
Council.
committee, advisory council, it's a forum. The minister is given powers to select whom should be the advisor. You understand? And if I can borrow an example of what we saw happening in the Ministry of Higher Education, where the minister said, I've got my own advisory board and I can't disclose who's my advisory board. We've got a law that is being introduced that says the minister in the Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources has powers to nominate his advisory council. There's discretion. He will not ask permission from anyone. So it's clear that then he will nominate people that he favors. And then we saw his relationship with Mineral Council. It's very close, it's very tight. And the minister keeps saying that he wants to see more black capitalists. It's clear. He's not running around with that one. I want to see more black capitalists in the country. And there was communities who are saying capitalism is impoverishing us. We live in poverty because of capitalism. And we've got the state or a minister that promotes capitalism to the department.